Hey everybody, welcome to our fourth lesson, and this is all about images. And today we're actually going to make a little image gallery. Now if you've unzipped the file, you should have our our PowerPoint, and also a folder which contains these pictures here. We're going to make a little gallery of going around the world. And let's open up the PowerPoint and we'll start going. I'm going to start the slideshow, and what we're going to do is find out how the images work. We've actually covered a little bit of that before. We're going to talk about alternative text, resizing, using thumbnails, making links, and also discussing the actual image formats which we can use in HTML. Alright, a little bit about the computers. We have a variety of computers now. We have our laptops, of course, desktops, and also kind of like a more powerful computer, which we call servers. And servers you normally would find in a business environment. They will be looking after data which is going to be held, the web server, emails, all of that type of thing. And also the server will be used for running web servers. If it is going to run a web server, it normally will need to run for 24/7, and it has to be quite powerful, and that's the reason why they cost a lot. Okay. Now, we did cover this before, how an HTML page gets its information, and we'll just revise that a little bit. Your browser will send a request for the HTML file. The web server, in response to that, will send a file. Your browser reads through the file and sees basically what image is needed, and your browser requests that file, and the web server in turn sends back the image file, and your browser will do that according to the HTML and CSS controls, and we can have a view of how this works. So basically, here's your browser. It sends the request back to the server, and for various photos, the server will go through a store of photos, whatever sends them. It will send back the HTML page. The HTML page will read through and find out what photos it needs, sends back the request for the photos. It then looks through a store of photos or various other files, and then sends them back to your browser. This is just a handshaking to and froing quite quickly. Now the thing is, that your HTML page has got listed all the images that you need, and the browser will read through them and start sending off the requests one at a time, but the server will actually send them back concurrently. So it is just going to try and get them up to your browser as quick as possible. So you will be receiving all of the images at once. So let's say that you had a really big picture and a small picture. The browser will send off for the big one first and for the small one second, because of the size difference, and the second one may be loaded before the first one because it might take more time. But we have to be aware of timings and how big the pictures are when we're actually making web pages, because we don't want to take forever to load. Okay, a little bit of revision. We did this a long time ago, and this is the image tag, and I hope that you're familiar with this by now. And so this is your image. That's the src is source, and it equals the quotes, and in this case it is a referential path to the image, and also it can be an absolute path, such as a web address or an address on your computer. Now, one thing that we didn't do before, and that was talk about the alt text, and some browsers may have the images not enabled, or other people might have some type of sight impairment, and the browser actually reads everything to them. And the alt text is basically a description of the picture, and in Australia it's mandatory that we do this. Here we have an example. So this is the image. We put an ID in for this image, which is optional. We'll be doing that more later. Here's the source, that's the name of the particular image, and here's the alt. It's just the ALT is equals, and in the quotes is a description of the actual image, and that's required if you do any type of website for any company website in Australia. It's just helping people who may have some type of sight impairment, or may be on a low bandwidth, or may have the company policy not to show images for some reason, whatever. And then if you can't see, there's my mouse gone, if you can't see the actual image, you will get something that looks like either that, or in some browsers, depending on the setup, you might just get that. Okay, as well as having the alt, we can also resize images. And so here we have, we're extending the tag even more with the image, the source, and then we have the width equals whatever the width, that's going to be in pixels, and then the space, and then the height equals, so remember we've got to have to the quotes, and that also is going to be in pixels. And so whatever size that you have downloaded is going to be displayed as this particular height. We can also do that in CSS. And CSS is actually better, but it's actually slower. It takes a little bit longer to load the page, and doing it like this way, in this case, we're going to have all the images on our page, because it doesn't have an ID, we're just doing all images, and they are going to have the width of 228 pixels or 145. Okay, and you're more than welcome to try and doing this in one of your other pages that you've done, or else if you read on, you'll be doing more of that in our lesson. Okay, now I want you to, as the first part of your activity, is to write another index page, and if we go on to the next slide, we can have a look at this image here. If you could try and make up a simple website which is going to have your header, it's HTML, then header, then body, and make a nice background, maybe kind of a yellowy background, and then just put in an image there. Make it look something similar to that, and then we'll need to change. Well, at the moment, when you put the image in, it's going to be way too big for the web browser, and so we can get the browser to tweak it. And I'll just go back to the previous 2 slides. So you can do it using CSS, or you can do it using the HTML, whichever you like, and just get the image to be a little bit smaller, and experiment to and just play around with the sizes. It's not too difficult.